I'm Miranda Kahn, and welcome back to Newsmax Now.
And I'm John Bachman. Let's get started with our roundtable discussion. We bring in radio host and Newsmax contributor Larry Eller, also with us from Newsmax New York, senior political contributor at Forbes.com and co-host of the Daily Wrap right here on Newsmax TV. And awesome, catch him on the weekends on Sirius XM, host of Steele and Unger. Rick Unger joining us from Newsmax New York. Guys, hot topic in the news, these police body cams, but we are learning this week in the Michigan State House, there's a new bill that would exempt some of this footage from being released under Freedom of Information Act request. This is a slippery slope here. We've already seen a lot of this footage come out of police officers rescuing ducks. We'd expect this from the police departments to use these as a PR tool. Go ahead, Larry. What's your take?
Well, I think it's very difficult to keep this stuff out. You have people like TMZ and have all these networks, but there is a balancing test. On the one hand, the officer's name and identity gets out there. His family could be threatened because the community's ticked off. On the other hand, the community has a right to know. I am a big proponent of body cams. In Rialto, California, out here, they reduced officer use of force by 60%. They also reduced complaints against officers by 90%. So I'm a big proponent, but there are some dangers.
Rick, your take.
I agree with a lot of what Larry just said. The balancing test is critical to this sort of thing. Look, I think at the end of the day, you have to err on the side of making it available. And I would also say, though, the only time that there should be an exemption, the only time that I can think of, would be if releasing it would somehow be damaging to the evidentiary value of what's on that tape.
And that is an expert legal opinion coming from Rick Unger, a lawyer, which is important.
There you go.
Moving on along, the Boston bomb.
I'm a lawyer too.
Oh, sorry, Larry, I don't want to cut you short. We got something else we're going to talk about with you.
Everybody's a lawyer.
So this
No
is
lawyers
perfect. We're going to talk about a case now for both of you who are lawyers. You'll be able to answer this much better than us. The Boston bombing trial. The question now is whether Dzhokhar Tsarnaev lives or dies. The parents of the youngest person murdered in the attack say the prosecution should drop the death penalty. Now, in your opinion, Larry, would the death penalty just make a martyr out of Tsarnaev?
You know, as I said earlier,
Who are you asking?
I'm a proponent of the death penalty, but it does bother me. I'm conflicted when I feel the defendant wants to die and will be martyred, and that might encourage other people to do bad things. So in the case of Tsarnaev, I'm a little conflicted, but I believe that people that do what he did should be toast and should be killed by the state.
And Rick, I know you talked about this on your radio show a little bit. Of course, we all feel that need for catharsis, and you want to run this guy over with your car. If you're an American and you didn't feel that at the onset, then you're a better person than I am.
Well,
at
you
least
do,
more
but
merciful. But go ahead.
Right, you do want to run this guy over with your car, but that does not lead me to believe in the death penalty. I've had problems with it on a number of fronts. It's never made any sense to me, logically speaking, that you turn to somebody and say, you killed somebody. That is this horrible thing, obviously, and so you know what we're going to do? We're going to kill you. We're going to do that same horrible thing. Doesn't apply in this case with respect to the possibility of innocence being discovered down the road, which is probably my main reason for being against the death penalty. However, it's not going to happen here. Look, you're in a state in Massachusetts that doesn't even have the death penalty, and there's a reason. The only reason it's at play here is because it's a federal case. I don't think this jury is going to go there. I think it'll be life imprisonment, which I think is a worse punishment.
And Larry, all this plays out while we see this debate taking place across the country. You've got pharmacy groups, you've got some doctors groups weighing in on this issue, saying that they're not going to supply or participate in executions across the country. Do you think the tide is turning in public opinion on the death penalty in this case, especially when you have one of the victims of this particular case saying life in prison is the better sentence?
There's no question that the tide has turned against the death penalty, largely because of the revelation that some people who were about ready to be killed by the state apparently were innocent. And so I think a lot of people felt that the process was probably foolproof. It's not foolproof. And some people are concerned that maybe, just maybe, an innocent person might be executed. That's why I believe that people are moving away from the death penalty.
Now, we're all saying this, but just a few weeks ago, there was another state wanting to bring back the firing squad.
And other states wanting to bring back the electric chair as well.
What are your thoughts on that, Rick?
Well, I'm sorry.
Well, it's pretty simple. I don't think any state should be putting anybody to death. So whatever their chosen method, I still think it's a really bad idea. and you got it right. The nation is moving against it, and for the reasons that Larry said. But I would add to it, it's not just that there are people that we have found out in time were innocent. There are people who have been put to death who are innocent, and it goes against the fundamental point of the American justice system, which is that it's better that 10 guilty people go free than one innocent people be convicted. It flies in the face of our entire judicial system. It needs to go away.
And Larry, isn't it more expensive too?
Oh, it's a lot more expensive to keep them around. Is a lot more expensive because appeal after appeal after appeal. It's probably cheaper to kill them if the appeal process is relatively swift, like it is, for example, in Texas.
But we know that's not normally the case, and a lot of times, that's on the state level, but in the federal appeal system, it can be a lot more protracted. We're talking about maybe dozens of years before he would ever get that sentence. I think the voices of the parents of the victims and the other victims will be strongest in this case, but we'll look forward to that penalty phase of the trial starting next week. And before we go, guys, I wanted to lighten things up. It is Friday after all.
Yeah,
I know you guys are both fans of Star Wars, and again, going back to American themes, if you're not a fan of Star Wars, some questions about your character from my end. We got the new trailer yesterday. Let's go ahead and play it. Take a listen.
Chewie, we're home.
Be too dramatic here, but getting a little choked, just not
Yeah,
really. Choked
I
up
have
about Star
chills.
Wars. It's coming out this Christmas. You saw Han Solo and Chewbacca there. Going back to the origins of this. Also, Larry, I want to say you're about to get a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right,
April 27th. Thank you.
Do you have a cameo?
Congratulations, Larry.
Do you have a cameo in this
Pardon me?
movie?
Well, no, I don't. But if I were a Star Wars character, I would be Lando Calrissian. That's the one that was played by Billy T.
Oh, that's a great character.
Kind of a sex symbol. I'm a little shy of that, but
Remember what were the old
Are we
Marvel
learning that
commercials
Larry
too,
thinks
Billy
he's Billy D?
Larry would like to be Billy D.
Cloud City. We can all go back.
Yeah,
Cloud
wouldn't
City.
we all?
But he did kind of sell out Han Solo, so you got that on your resume too, Larry. If you're going to be
That's true.
Lando
He turned out
Calrissian.
to
What
be a
about you,
bad
Rick?
guy.
Who's your favorite Star Wars character? Or if you could be any character, who would it be?
Oh, I'd be the Wookiee, to be sure.
Oh, can you do that sound though?
No, I'm going to name drop a little bit here because Mark Hamill's an old friend of mine. I think I'd have to want to be Luke Skywalker.
The force is strong with you, I have a feeling.
That's right.
The force is strong with me.
Now, you guys, are you going to line up to see this movie? I have to admit, the last
He
time
has a star coming on Hollywood. He doesn't have to line up, right, Larry?
But if you're a real fan
That's
of Star
right.
Wars,
That's
part
right.
of the experience.
Larry doesn't have to.
Yeah, if you're a real
Yeah,
fan
I'm
of
gonna-
Star
I'm
Wars,
gonna go
part of the
see it, but I
experience is
gotta admit
going with
the
fellow
Liam
Star Wars
Neeson-
fans.
The Liam Neeson set, that I wasn't terribly impressed by that, but I go and see every Star Wars movie. I'll be there.
All right. Well,
right.
thank you
You
very
know
much.
what's interesting?
Go ahead, Rick.
Well, we'll hold on what's interesting for the next one.
All right. Well, we'll have you back then. We can talk about it. We still got a little time, though, if you want to get in. We got about 30 seconds if you want to wrap up.
I've been asking people this morning if they like the trailer. Everybody does, but when you ask them why they like it, it's fascinating. It feels like Star Wars again.
Exactly.
Those 3 movies that were so bad, now it's back to being Star Wars, and that's exciting.
It is exciting.
I think you just encapsulated what we feel from that.
Harrison Ford.
The nostalgia.
Need I say
Right.
more?
And yes, we could all go back to the 80s. It would be much better.
The
maybe.
best
Maybe
one
not.
was The Empire Strikes
No,
Back.
not
Bar
necessarily.
none.
All right, guys, we got to leave it there. This is a debate. We've opened up a whole can of worms here, but we'll have to have you back for round 2 of the most important Star Wars moments debate. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. We'll have you back, of course. Speaking of sci-fi stuff, it's Friday, it's science. Coming up, our Sci-Fry segment. How you can maybe live to be 1,000 years old, and yes, some researchers say we are close to having that ability. That's coming up.
And in our personal impact segment, how one organization hopes to make a military bride's dreams come true. It's all coming next. Stay with us on Newsmax TV.